This is the Arizona Podcast. Stories about the people, places, and events found along the highways and backroads of the Grand Canyon State.
And in this edition of the On the Road with Arizona Podcast, we spotlight the award-winning Desert Diamond Distillery. It's the oldest craft distillery located in Kingman with owners John and Deborah Patt. Their vision in 2010, to be the best rum distillery in the Southwest. The result after 14 years? Well, you can count on it. Plenty of recognitions, awards, and international medals. Their humble beginnings, their processes, and their future is coming up next. This edition of the Arizona Podcast being brought to you in part by DESERT, the best and award-winning comprehensive multi-platform security for all aspects of your digital life. Whatever you do online, stay protected with DESERT Internet Security. The Marriott Bonvoy Card by Chase, where you earn points and elite night credits, plus a free night stay every anniversary with the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless Card. And by Passport America, the original and world's largest 50% discount camping club, where you can save at over 1,200 quality campgrounds across America, including near 100 locations right here in Arizona. Now, to learn more and receive special offers, visit ArizonaPodcast.com and follow the links to start saving today. That's ArizonaPodcast.com. Well, it's all about the craft of fermentation in this edition of the Arizona Podcast. What do you say? Let's welcome John and Deborah Patt to the mics. Good morning. And we do welcome you to the Arizona Podcast.
We thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
What a beautiful location right here. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with a lot of the Arizona Podcast philosophy, but in simple terms, Emerson said it best. It's not the destination, it's the journey. So with that said, we took that a step further with our motto of come journey with us. Now, I say us, Mary's not here today, but she's here in spirit. And what we learned a long time ago is you can get to your destination, but by God, take a few extra minutes and get off the road and see what's there. Now, Route 66 is a perfect example of that story. Now, a lot of people head out west on Route 66. Let's say you come across the Arizona border, whether you go to Holbrook or whether you stop in Winslow, you see the Meteor Crater, then you jump back on the 40 and you fly. Let's say destination is Kingman.
Right.
With that said, they jump on the 40 and they miss everything.
They do.
They saw the Meteor Crater and maybe the Painted Desert and Petrified Forest, and they think they've done everything. Mm-hmm. The fun part I try to tell people is go journey. Learn something. Now, Winslow is what? A quarter of a mile off Interstate 40 of Route 66. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, have you seen Standing on the Corner? And they go, what? You know the song, Take It Easy. You know, and they go, well, what are you talking about? Well, there's a girl in a flatbed Ford sitting on the side of the road, Glen Fry. It's all there. And what's it going to take you? 30 minutes to just explore and take the journey. And then I say, if you really want to get even further, let's continue our journey west. You're going to see a roadside that invites you to go to Seligman.
Right.
Well, that's granted, maybe a 5-minute journey off of Interstate 40. It's the birthplace of Route 66. Go see Angel at the barbershop. He's the mastermind behind making that all come together. Mm-hmm. Where's that leading me now? Well, stay on Route 66, make your way into Kingman. You're going to pass a few little roadside stops. What do they call them? Tourist traps, if you wish. But you're going to see people in business inviting people to come see what Route 66 is all about.
Correct.
Now we're here. You see, oh, look, there's Kingman Airport. And you drive by and you go to whatever hotel you're going to check in and do whatever you're going to do. Who would think that the oldest distillery in Arizona is in the airport? You're literally a block and a half away from the tower, which in itself, the Kingman Airport, has so much history that dates back to the first days of aviation.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Journey. Go see what's going on. But now, I'm going to give old Jim from Jim Hinckley's America a little plug here.
Yes.
We have spoken about you both on my podcast and his podcast many times. And it was one of those days I'm having breakfast with him last week, and I said, Jim, I need to stop talking about these people, and I need to go talk to these people. all that introduction to say thank you for inviting me to come here. You're here on your day off, a good sign of an entrepreneur is you're actually working harder today than you would on a work day.
Unfortunately, yes.
And I can't thank you enough for allowing us to come here and learn more about this distillery. Hard to believe, the oldest, but that was because of a law in Arizona. So share with me the distillery being allowed to be made. It's 14 years?
Yes, we actually started in 2009. We opened to the public in 2010. So there was a year buildup, and a lot of legislative stuff, permitting, and but more or less we were in on a very young industry.
Right.
Not that distilling is young, but the artisan part of it is very young and very difficult. And a lot of not a lot of consumer awareness. So not just our location, but the consumer awareness of what is craft
on a
distilling.
distillery part. Yeah, I mean, most people think wine, and
Correct.
they know that you can go to a vineyard, and this is where they're bottling the wine, growing the grapes or whatever. I understand the story actually begins with rum, which is probably one of my favorites. And Deborah, I read a quote about you in a magazine where that was the drive to make that happen in the Southwest. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Maybe a little. John picked rum at the very beginning, and at that point, I'm a wine drinker, and I remember drinking rum as a teenager, and now back in the day, I could drink at 18.
Right.
So 21 was like my sister's age, and then she couldn't drink till she was 21. And rum, most young people OD on rum a little bit too much in college, and then they're done with it. They want to drink something else, something lighter. So I was a little disappointed that he picked rum, but it's been delicious. It doesn't remind me of the rums from outside of our building because it's made here. It's craft, and it's fermented and distilled here. And it's top tier. It's delicious. And my wine drinkers love it when they taste a tasting of our rums and products. They're amazed because they're rum drinkers. They're wine drinkers and beer drinkers out in the regular places because our products just haven't got out there yet. I think we're 5 to 10 years out before they get into those venues where you can just order one off the menu. I think that's coming, but it's a very slow process to get it out there.
Yeah. I'm a Scotsman, so going back home to the homeland,
oh, wow.
we watch whiskey tasting is a big thing, and then to go into the distilleries. I have to tell you, I was today years old when I found out how Talisker makes whiskey, and to go through the entire process. Let me ask you, I learned a few things about whiskey, and if I can go through my notes here, that's going to remind me is the big lesson, the number one, it's not just the ingredients. There's a whole process to it. Like in Scotland, it's the regions, whether it be island, highland, lowland, Speyside, and then you learn that on the island whiskeys that when they boil everything together, the fermentation process, they use peat to burn, so you get that smoky
for the malting and everything. Yeah.
So you learn. Is doing it here in the U.S. the same? Is there kind of a process that you go through? And I know the barrel has a big.
I like to use a lot of analogies from different industries and everything. Everybody understands wine, and they know that different grapes or grapes from different regions have different characteristics. It's no different.
So you get that same effect with
the raw materials are very important. Your fermentation, your yeast, your methodologies, all of these things are going to contribute to totally different characteristics. I always like a simple analogy, a painter has a paintbrush painting a canvas, but are you making stick figures or Rembrandt?
Right.
In other words, the basic process of distilling is very simple, but there's a lot of nuances to go into it to create something.
And once you come up with that recipe of all levels, not just the recipe of ingredients, but the process of, and then what cask do you use to age and for how long, you come up with a winner, and then it all kind of works out real well, and it stays. What's the word I'm looking for? Consistent.
You have to.
Yeah, it stays.
The consumer, at some point, that's where I have more play when I say my play toys are my whiskeys, because I can do a lot of different things.
Right.
But with my rums, they have the consumer now has a conceived notion of what they expect with certain ages and certain styles.
So I mentioned the word Desert Diamond Distillery, and we have the nickname for you guys, which is D3, but people don't know you by that. They know you by your label name over here, which I find kind of interesting. What's the story behind that? Let's talk
Reserve?
about it. Let's talk about that. That's what they know you by.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Arizona is not, mining is a huge part of Arizona. So we kind of started with that theme. And I don't know. It's a combination of different ideas and different creativity. I'm very fortunate, and my wife and my eldest daughter are very graphic design, very artistic.
Right.
And that's an incredibly important part of the
marketing.
Marketing.
Yeah.
And we were, for lack of a better term, we got lucky.
I don't know if it's all luck. I mean, you have a great product, so I mean that's where the awards come from.
I just mean as far as the appeal of our bottles and everything,
and our labels.
Exactly. Yeah. It's there was a lot of thought process to it and everything, and we were very fortunate that it has worked out the consumer. And
we've had 3 New York design houses come through here who are, owners or work there, and asked me who did the labels. They wanted to know. They said, this is what we want our designers to do. And then a lady from the Oregon Institute of Art also did the same thing to me. She has said, who did the artwork of these labels? Yeah. And we said we did, and she said, this is what we want our students to do. Yeah. So after the 4th one, I was like, well, I think we did an okay job.
You did an okay job. Yeah. It's not like you were going to go on Shark Tank and they tell you, we don't like your label. That's
they may still not, but
well, yeah,
they know better than me.
To me, I love again the journey. Not a lot of people know that this is here, and let me tell you, it is a journey to get here. I mean, you guys did a journey to get here. Who would have thought that you would find a distillery such as this right off of the runway of an airport in Kingman? And it is off of Route 66. You have to come in about a half mile to get here.
Right.
I find it such a great story. And here it's your day off. And we're doing video casting for the first time. So you guys are my guinea pigs. So this is going to be, Schroeder's cat story, where I'm going to go home, I'm going to pull the video card out, and either there's something there or there's not. So we're going to see what happens.
Now we call it a journey, but when we started, everybody called us insane.
Of course, with a capital I.
And that,
Well, I brought that up because you can see the labels that we were just talking about. And I'm going to put some B-roll in the video. I don't know if it will come to fruition or not, but I'd like to take a look in the back, and we'll talk about that in a moment, the equipment that you use. One of the other things is the Pullman train car out front. People, when you pull up, you're not expecting to see that either, that you have that. And that's an old, what is that, the Santa Fe, the old Atchison, Topeka, and the Santa Fe rail cars. And then you have an old caboose in there, which you've turned into like a bed and breakfast, which I found that on another website as well. So that you have your tentacles out. You're doing a lot of things to make people know that you're not just...
We've tried to create a little oasis.
I understand. Yeah. And I can't, and I can see why it has been so successful, but I understand it's been probably a very hard 14 years with probably 2.5 hours sleep in the last 14 years.
It's challenging for any business, but alcohol, wine, beer, or spirits, extremely challenging.
And
we have
the
our
licensing
friends in the
and
business,
the control.
Everything is.
And then we started on the forefront, and now it's getting crowded.
It is.
So you get a different kind of challenges.
I'm old school. Like I said, in Scotland, you can't throw a dead cat without hitting a distillery or a golf course. I mean, they're everywhere in Scotland. And in here, to say the least. Wineries are the same way. Wineries are popping up everywhere, even in areas you wouldn't expect.
Right.
True.
That you would find a winery somewhere, and it seems to work. And now that in the distilling world, like you said, you were kind of in the forefront.
Yeah.
And now you have people trying to catch up to you, and that's the way I think it should be. Just keep leading them; they'll follow, because you've got the right thing. You got the labeling, you have the marketing, but most importantly, you have the product.
Well, we decided at the beginning artisan meant you made everything, and we do. We make 100% of our artisan spirits.
For those that don't know, when I'm trying to set up the equipment for the podcast, you're over there, you're paying bills and talking to people on the phone. Deborah, you're over there and you're pumping stuff into bottles, and it's like, okay, we'll stop, we'll do a podcast. And I know that when I leave here today, you're going to go right back into that. You didn't miss a beat, and that makes a great entrepreneur. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, well, we've been entrepreneurs all our married lives, and pretty much my entire life. So we're kind of used to that part of it.
Right. People don't understand. I'm an entrepreneur as well. I like to work for the man. I would never do that again.
Right.
But it was, for the last 30 years of my life, I've been an entrepreneur, and it's like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I would like to know what sleep is again, and I'd like to take a vacation.
Vacations.
Yeah,
and,
I hear they're still
security.
Doing that.
I guess I don't.
We have to be happy with a day here and a day there with the grandkids.
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well,
that's
fortunately,
Mary and I
we're
same
grandparents, and that has changed we do sneak away and find.
Well, you have to, and as a grandparent now. See, I'm located in Fort Mojave, so I'm right on the Colorado River. Mm-hmm. I have 2 grandkids in Salt Lake City and 2 grandkids in San Diego. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm forced to get on the road and go see them.
That's us. We're forced.
And you can see I'm twisting your arm to go see your grandkids. Mm-hmm. It's like it's something if you want us to, I can brag for hours. But let's go back to the rail cars, if you don't mind. You have that Airbnb, which is, and again, radio or podcasting now, but radio has always been theater of the mind. You have to be verbose, and you have to explain what you're looking at so that people can go, oh my God, I want to go see there. I wish I could explain and put into words. Again, this is an industrial part of Kingman, next to an airport, next to the railroad tracks. Mm-hmm. To pull up here, it's so unassuming until you get in front of your building.
Correct.
There you have this warehouse-looking front.
And that's when you're supposed to forget you're in an industrial park.
Exactly. But you do that. You're very successful.
What we try.
You drive in the parking lot. Right now, I'm looking out the window. I see the old Pullman. I'm sitting back going, okay, you've turned that into a restaurant. What is the Lost Rail Car Kitchen?
Right. I'm glad you mentioned that, because we would love to find a chef for that. We're trying to rent it out to somebody who can bring food to this side of Kingman. We've got nothing out here.
There's literally nothing out here.
We have the airport cafe, and they do a very good job.
And I forget about them because we eat there all the time.
Well, yeah, it's like, that's like your own kitchen.
We're trying to bring alternatives, different,
a different style of food. Somebody who maybe can do dinners.
Yeah, I read something somewhere that during the lunch hour you had been doing paninis, or you were doing bread, and
we did that. We did that for 2 years.
Cheese plates.
Yes, we did that on our own, and it pretty much is going. We could see that we needed to focus here and just.
That was taken. Yeah, you can only give 100% so much. You can't have 100% tasks even as an entrepreneur. You can't give 100% to the kitchen and 100% to the distillery. So it does catch up.
We're a tad older than we were.
Just a wee bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you said grandparent,
but the venue up there, it's 100-year-old train, and it seats 20. It's just gorgeous, and car number 30 in the history books.
That's right. And it's built back in 1917. Right. So the history that's here. So I don't know. Is there a listener of the years on the podcast that doesn't want to work in the kitchen anymore at Denny's, or is running his own kitchen at some beautiful hotel across America?
Whatever. Yeah.
I want to come out to Arizona. I want to retire anyway. Maybe I can do this. So they can contact the two of you anytime.
A little vision with a beautiful venue.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. I love the journey destinations. maybe this wouldn't be a destination for somebody to come and watch and see how a distillery works. I have to tell you, I was captivated to find out. And the first time they opened the lid and they stuck my head in there and told me to take a whiff, I'm still remembering that day. I don't recommend it, but I remember that day very
It's
well.
kind of like my kids say when they come here, which doesn't happen very often, but when they do, it's, didn't realize there was that much that went into it.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't see it here, and I have to tell you, in Europe, it's a whole lot different when it comes to the liquor tax. So, I don't know if you're aware of this. In Scotland, the tester that is going to, and everything's the old copper tubes, and they come down, and it comes into a separate locked room,
It's metered.
Yes.
and it has a clear little vial of where the whiskey's coming through.
Yep.
And then
It's metered and measured.
Yeah, and you have to wait for the inspector to come in, and he'll stand there, and they will unlock this little meter glass viewing area. And just for him to sample, to make sure that this is exactly what it's supposed to be, he'll sample it, they lock it back up again, and then they charge them for the amount of whiskey that they took out of the line in a tax.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, this is so governed.
We
So,
are too.
Yeah. No, I
But
didn't.
not in the same manner.
Right.
A little bit more honor system until it's in the bottle, and then, if it moves, then you're going to get taxed.
So talk about the equipment itself. Can we go through the process of
Absolutely.
what does it take to make? And again, I believe you're known for rum, but you have a nice laundry list of
I make some good whiskey.
You
too.
have some whiskey
I
in
really
there.
do. I
and
do I have
saw an
100
agave thing in there too, right? Are you?
Well, that's our most popular rum.
I gotcha.
When we started, remember, I started with a basic concept that I make rum in Kingman, Arizona. So I didn't want to copy the Caribbean. I didn't want to copy really anybody. So I didn't really want to do a spiced rum. I wanted to do something that really said Southwest. And we came up with this recipe, the agave flavored rum, and it has been very good to us. It's a little sweeter, drinks like a honey whiskey kind of, has a nice tequila nose, and it literally has been
Quite
very
successful,
good to us.
yeah. So talk about
I
the
use the
equipment.
dark rum as a base. A lot of people seem to feel like we make the rum from the agave. We do not.
Gotcha. You take the name agave. Does that?
And we use agave flavored rum.
Gotcha.
Okay, it's a dark rum base.
Gotcha.
So that's important.
And then with all the other ingredients that you put into it, you have the mix down.
Correct.
It's all organic too.
Yeah, you're right.
So
As far as process, fermentation's a lot like beer and wine. Remember two things. Basically, it's just as important as making a good beer or wine.
Right.
I have one shot at it. If I don't make something good, I have to throw it away.
Right.
It's not, I can concentrate any alcohol, but if something's bad to start with, I only make it worse. I'm a concentrator.
Right.
So the process is still the most important part of the entire production.
Right.
It is, where else are you going to draw flavors and aromas from? And that's what we do.
Well, being in the Southwest, when in Rome. I
Yeah.
mean,
But the big difference in what I do is beer and wine, that's pretty much a finished product. So I'm going to vaporize and condense away. So it allows me a little luxury, and as far as I don't need to do a complete fermentation.
gotcha. And how long is the process from start to finish?
Fermentations is about 6 days.
Right.
Distillation's about 6 hours. And then I do a 30-day calming. I actually, I'm still an artist, so it's still small batch.
Right.
It's not all chemistry. So I take a lot of batches and I blend them together and create a reservoir. And that I leave sit for like 30 days, and I draw off that reservoir and I add to that reservoir. And this gives us more consistency.
Oh, I would think so. Then you have this
Kind of like an artist
solid
again.
base.
An artist paints a painting 100 times. Not one of them is the same. But if you can imagine blending all those paintings together, you get a nice uniform.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So,
And then you also do a vodka, is that correct?
sugarcane-based vodka.
Wow.
It's very different. But here again, that's my job.
Right.
That's what I do. There's a lot of traditional style vodkas out there. Traditional style vodka is pretty much neutral.
Right.
This still has some character. We do make it from the sugar cane. Fortunately, the U.S. law allows us to make vodka from anything that ferments.
Right.
So a lot of artisan distillers, I don't like to say take advantage of that law because that implies we're doing something wrong.
Right.
We take advantage of what it's allowing us. And I've seen everything from maple syrup to grapes. And in our case, we redistill the rum and we create a sugarcane-based vodka, which is a vodka when we distill it to 190 proof.
Right.
190 proof or higher is the definition of vodka in the States.
Our states.
Our states.
Yes.
Gotcha.
No, the U.S. states, not
Right.
Arizona.
Right.
When it comes to that, it's all federal.
Right.
We have to deal with the federal, the state, and the local and everything, but when it comes to the actual production, it's federal. And so I didn't carbon filter that spirit, and it drinks very soft.
Right.
It truly drinks like a Brazilian cachaça, but most people have never experienced that.
And I was going to say, how do you even spell that? I
Yeah.
don't think I've heard that.
It's
don't
the
know.
national drink of Brazil,
Right.
and we've had lots of Brazilians in here who claim
They're
it,
very
they
excited.
get it.
Oh, good.
But as far as Americans, we hardly ever see that spirit. But that being said, we call it a rumka. It's a vodka by law, but it still has some rum characteristics.
Gotcha.
And it drinks very nice on the rocks with a twist of lime. But it's not your traditional vodka.
So, again, when you do tastings, people get to experience that.
Correct.
So
They
they
do.
stop by and they can actually taste the product long before you would buy it. I understand you are restricted too of you can mail within the state of Arizona, but you
Correct.
have to go through another process for California or other states.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, shipping is a difficult.
Another art.
Wholesale distribution, everything. We've been doing this a long time. We have a lot of customers that come see us right here.
Right.
And they come maybe once a year, every 2 years, whatever it is.
Well, I've learned a lot over my lifetime and doing the podcasting. Being from San Diego, there's two major industries when it comes to that. One, San Diego holds the honor of having the most microbreweries in like the world or something. I mean, again, you can't throw a dead cat without hitting a brewery in San Diego. It's everywhere. And you touched on being consistent. If you have something that you don't like, you toss it out and you start over.
don't have
That's the
much
hardest. Some of these people don't do that, and I mean, they just you open the door and you go, and people come, and this is what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then our home in California is a stone's throw from wine country in Temecula, and each one of those vineyards does something so uniquely different with the grapes that they have.
Correct.
And people, I had no idea the concept of wine tasting till you do one, and then it's like, oh, I see how this concept works. And then you multiply that by the amount of wineries that are out there.
Right.
And you definitely get to, even though it's the same region, like if you were to go to, mid part of California, if you went up to, why have I just forgotten Northern California, wine country?
Napa, Sonoma.
there's
Yeah.
Sonoma.
Yeah.
So each region, again, does something different, and they offer. I was tickled to find out that there was a distillery here in the Southwest. And again, Deborah, when I was talking to you on the phone, it was so interesting. The concept was we needed something here, and you were glad to be a part of that birth and conception. This is now where I want you to put feathers in your cap. Let's talk about what you had hoped for. One, when I read the brief history of D3 and what you wanted to accomplish, you have accomplished that. I don't know if you have a laundry list in the back room in the office that there's a few check marks missing. As far as I'm concerned, just by reputation alone and by product alone, I think you've achieved that. But let's put the feathers in your cap. Let's talk about the awards that you've walked away with in such a young age.
Yeah. I'm not much for the awards. She'll describe the awards. They're tremendous.
I know, but that's what makes it work.
If I'm going to toot my own horn, it's that I get to play in the big leagues now.
Right.
It's kind of like, I'll use a baseball analogy. I'm not stuck in the minor leagues.
Right.
And I didn't get called up to the majors for one pitch and go back to the minor leagues.
Right. You're still there.
I've played there for now about 5 years, and competitively.
Right.
And that's, for me personally, that's what you look for as a career, I think, is to reach those upper limits.
Right. But for those that are listening, they're going, well, why would I want to go by this distillery? The awards mean something. That raises eyebrows every once in a while.
This is absolutely true.
Yeah, it does raise an eyebrow.
I always say all the awards in the world don't mean you're going to like our stuff.
Right.
What it means is it's worth trying.
At least
it's worth
trying,
taking the time to come visit us. And that is the validation that we have achieved.
So my page is missing all the awards, but I imagine you have at the top of your head. So Deborah, share with us what you. I know that just recently in the last 4 years, you've got some international acclaim. So let's pat you on the back.
Right, and so the two major awards that we put our products in, or contests, are the International World Spirit Competition out of London. And we've been doing that since about 2016, 2017, something around there. Everything we send in comes back with a medal. But in 2021, we really were amazed. We got 2 gold medals. Our 95 gold medal was for our 6-year barrel reserve rum. So 6 years in the barrel room.
In the aging process, yeah.
And then our 97 gold medal, which ranked 9th, so it was in the top 10 in 2021, was our 10-year barrel reserve rum, our first rum that was released over 10 years old.
Right.
So that in itself was amazing to us. That was our first release. We sent it to the IWSC and received a huge gold medal back. Now, here comes 2023 last year, and we enter our 11th year into the IWSC, and we get the award back, and I swear we thought it was a typo, or we kept enlarging it and thinking it was an 89, but it was a 99, giving us the top spot at the IWSC 2021. So we have been mentioned in 2023, excuse me. So we have been mentioned in a few little articles from the IWSC, and when they're listing out those top rums in the world,
it was actually a perfect score.
Yeah,
and that was a perfect score.
Which they hadn't had one in 2 years.
Good for you guys. See, this is what I'm talking about. Some people listening right now or watching right now are wondering, is it worth the trip out? Maybe this could be a destination. However, again, it's the journey. So if you're planning to come to Arizona, as you know, we want you to see everything that we have to offer. Jim Hinckley, if you haven't listened to his podcast or watched him on video as well, he's still learning about things just in Arizona alone, let alone all of Route 66 to Chicago. It's here. Come look at it. And I have learned every day I'm learning something new about it. I'm a Maui guy, so I had a program called Papa on Maui, and I would discuss all those little hidden gems on Maui. I was learning all the time. People would share with me things to go see, things to do. And I think D3 is definitely on the right rail, pun intended,
there you go,
to have people to come out and see it. If you're going to be anywhere near Kingman, come by, look at what they have to offer. And if you have the time, do the sampling. That's got to be, the tasting's got to be part of it. I'm not promoting drinking and driving. I may come in, drink a bottle, and drive home.
We're very careful.
That's, of course, but I want people to do that. And boy, I tell you, times have changed federally. In radio, we could never really talk about alcohol at all.
Right.
And then, oh dear God, if you couldn't drink on television, now we're popping bottles left and right. So things have changed and eased up a little bit. But with that comes responsibility.
Correct.
So
regarding the tasting. And I'm glad you brought that up, responsibility, because our tastings are tailored to be the same amount of alcohol as a typical wine tasting. So you usually get 5 wines in a tasting.
Right. We
have 5 liquors in a tasting, but they're much smaller. These are 1 ounce. Ours are 1/4 ounce.
Right.
So it's equal in alcohol. And people are a little nervous sometimes when they come in because they're worried. They are picturing large amounts.
Sure, and it's a palate taste.
And sharing is caring is our motto. Some places do not allow you to share. We encourage it because we know somebody's driving. We want you to just taste it to see if you want to take home a bottle because it's so nice on the palate. You can really enjoy it.
And it's really not what you know, a lot of people have a preconceived notion walking in the door.
Right.
And we usually let that down.
Good.
Or we burst that bubble.
You try to burst that. Yeah, let's go on the upscale.
I mean,
there.
we're literally in a great unexpected or a surprise. Let's put it that way. And that's That we like that feeling.
So
when people have no trouble telling us that they're totally blown away, or it's not what they expected, or however they express it. But
that's what you're hoping for.
Yeah,
correct.
You don't want them to think
Correct.
they're going to come and have the usual. You
Right.
want it to be different.
correct,
Wonderful.
and way above their expectations.
Way above, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the future for Desert Diamond Distillery? What's on your
Slow progress as far as the alcohols.
Right.
I've reached a point now. I just released a 12-year rum. I just released a 10-year wheat, 100% wheat.
Wheat whiskey.
So I have a lot of, I'm at that point now because we made everything where it was very difficult to start with. You don't have a 12-year-old spirit if you don't wait 12 years.
Right. Yeah, you have to work with what you have.
So we're reaping the benefits of what we've sowed now, and we've set a pace that we're going to introduce 1 or 2 new things a year, and that's what our goal is.
In Scotland, like I said, they have barrels that have aged well, and each distillery has a different way of putting things together. Is it a secret to what barrel you store yours in, or is that kind of common knowledge?
But to a certain degree, I mean, people can walk in here anytime and see what I do. I don't hide very much.
Right. But is there?
There's a
but
lot.
is that part
Remember,
of the recipe?
I mean, we moved to Kingman partly or a big part because of the climate.
Right.
The climate here, and we had nothing to go on. This sucker didn't come with a manual.
Right.
We've been writing
Learn
the
as
book
you go.
we go. And you make mistakes, of course, but
Right.
One of the things we saw was that the climate here is similar to Tennessee, Kentucky. And I wanted to do something a little bit different with the rum. That's where I always say I created we're the miner, not the pirate.
Right.
Love the pirate, but I wanted to do something that was not recognizable or was recognizable to the area.
Right.
And I put rum in new barrels.
Oh,
When we started, that was unheard of.
I was going to say it's unheard of to
Unheard.
me.
So we definitely self-inflicted a lot of pain.
Right.
But it has panned out. The climate here is a lot like Tennessee, Kentucky, in that we have a hot summer, cool winter,
Right.
but not too hot, not too cold. We're bone dry, but
Right.
I create the humidity year-round.
Gotcha. Now, see, that's amazing to me that you would start with a fresh barrel. So
Yeah.
that would lead me to say, what do you do with your old barrel?
In fact, I'm getting ready to deliver one. We basically sell them to meaderies, wineries, or breweries.
Oh, there you go.
The meadery out here that's with Cella Wines out
Right.
here, they have some of my barrels.
Gotcha.
Blackbridge Brewery downtown has some of my barrels. Scattered all over Arizona are our barrels.
I was going to say it never goes to waste. Everything recycles itself,
Correct.
and you
Well,
find
they
a new
get to
reason
use
for
the
it.
barrel and create an all Arizona product,
Right.
and that's
That's
a good
fun.
thing.
Yeah, I'm learning more about that as well with businesses here in Arizona. Is I don't want to use the term recycle, but there is no other word. Although it's a very competitive in any business, you're going to have competition, and somebody wants to do better than the other. But there's more of a camaraderie here in Arizona, and I love that about Arizona.
This is something I try to explain to people. They're like, if a distillery opened up right next door, would that be a problem? I said, well, when you're the first winery on the block, you're crazy.
Yeah,
350 wineries later, it's a terroir,
yeah,
and everybody seems to survive.
they do. And
They
then
do.
So it kind of, another analogy would be bourbon out of Kentucky. There's a preconceived notion that great bourbon comes from Kentucky, which is true. But, would you like every bourbon you tried in Kentucky?
Right.
Maybe not. But there's that notion, and what we talked about earlier, why would we go try? Why
Right,
would we go
right.
there? Because there's this preconceived notion that good stuff comes from there. And that's what we've worked very hard to create here in the last 14 years.
Yeah, well, like I said, your reputation preceded you, and it's been an honor to sit here and talk to you about it. But I want to go into you're not telling me a lot about the future, so I'm going to sneak into your office and look at your
For me
board of
personally, I
ideas.
want to get to 20 years.
Do you?
But we are getting older, so you know.
I think we can do it.
Yeah.
And you mean that by you personally, you want to get
A
another
20-year-old
20 years,
spirit.
or do you want to
We
make?
wanna
Do you want to
make
have a
sure we
20-year-old
release
barrel?
one.
That's our goal. That's our next goal.
Call that the reserve. That's the big boy.
20-year-old reserve.
Yeah, that is. Some of those are so good.
That's my personal big goal.
Yeah? And will we ever see you? I know this sounds, I mean, this is all marketing 101, but on a more national level, will we see this label, or is anybody knock on the door?
But
are you pursuing that, or is that
more
something
like
you
the Van Winkle of
you'd rather
rum,
sit?
in Arizona, you're going to have to try to find us.
I love it. It's such a great concept.
I don't envision us having the volume to be a national brand.
So I have to bring this up only because I'm just a big Route 66 buff. Any Route 66 special coming up for the big centennial in 26 when the Mother Road turns 100, we know that the highway is going to be packed with people trying to make that
Never say
Chicago to
never.
LA.
Maybe we'll come out with a label. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I threw that.
start
It's going to be my
designing
idea. There you go.
There you go.
That's right. It's your idea.
It's my idea. I'll come in and say, so
Get
where's
ready.
that Route 66? I don't know if they've got a trademark on that.
When is that?
The whole
26?
2026. Highway Route 66 takes on 100 years. So my plan, we have it. We're not afraid to say it. We will be podcasting live every week for those 52 weeks on Route 66 somewhere. So that is, I mean, it'll be.
Schedule us in.
Yeah, well, we'd love to do
Technically,
one
we should
here.
have-
Yeah, as a matter of
Have
fact.
a 15-year-old rum then,
Huh.
We could do 100 months.
so we could do something.
Look at you. So you can see the creative.
you just start working it.
Normally you can hear eyes roll. You can hear creative juices roll. This is awesome.
So, yeah,
Okay.
we don't have a plan yet, but
Well, you never know.
could
If I bug you enough, we'll show up here and.
like I
and-
say, we have enough variety now that we can come up with something.
Well, listen, you know what? You usually hear rumbles, about businesses and people and products over the years, and yours are all positive. You guys, as people, as a process, as a product, you kind of knocked it out of the ballpark, to use your analogy before. I'm honored to have shared time with you. I'm hoping that the video cast takes off. And what I'd like to do after, I think you and I already talked about, go get some B-roll and you can share with me the process in the back. And I'd like to share that with viewers. It's so weird doing the listener-viewer thing, but we're going to give it a shot. I tell everybody, I can't TikTok, but I can saddle a horse. So you know what? I can still be part of the game somehow. I don't know.
I think the big part for us is we still have passion. We're still all very passionate about it.
Yeah,
And
don't lose that.
That bubbles out.
Well, that's all of it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If you don't like what you do, don't do it.
Yeah.
You're wasting your time and everybody else's time. So good for you. All right. Any other last-minute ideas? Let's see. We've talked about your product. We've talked about your process. We're talking about finding a chef to come out here. This is amazing. I just want to jump in one of the rail cars, and I'm an old train buff, so this is like, I want to go touch and
We
feel
kind
and
of-
take pictures.
We're so busy that we don't enjoy it as much as we like to. And every now and then we just, even if we order something to go,
Yeah.
We'll go sit in the train
we go
car.
sit in the train car for
Sit
a
in the
while.
train car. It's your train. How many
Right.
people can say that? I'm going to go have
And
lunch in my
you know,
train car.
Call me old, call me whatever, but I swear those walls talk to you.
Oh, there's all.
That car has a lot of stories.
The history is
Gotcha.
amazing.
It's one of the first steel cars. It's almost 100 tons.
Yeah.
She has original trucks, and she has a fairly good pedigree for a rail car.
And on your website, you can actually see, I don't know if it's your website or not, but there were websites showing getting the trains in here. So, I mean, this is a big
Craziest
deal.
thing we ever did, and
Yeah.
we've done a lot of crazy.
Yeah, and that's one of them. But I mean, I envy you that you can sit back and say, let's go have lunch in our train car.
It,
I mean,
It's very
that's
peaceful.
doesn't happen enough, but it is. Yeah, it's amazing. You can go in there, and all of a sudden, it's like a whole different world.
I bet.
You forget about everything around you.
And everybody can look it up as well.
Yeah.
The B&B is still part of the process, and if we get a chef in here, I can't wait. Will you let us know that that's happening, and then we can
will.
mention that?
And
Absolutely.
the Airbnb it's in a historic
Right.
little caboose, and that's one of the 999 series. I think it's 281.
Right.
And I don't know how many of those were made.
Or how many are left?
I don't know how
I don't
many
know
are
any
left.
of that.
I don't really know.
This one is 1948.
Right.
So it's riveted.
Yep. It's not welded, so riveted, and it has a history here in Arizona. We actually
And it
purchased that
sleeps
from...
2 comfortably. I imagine it could sleep 20 comfortably, but I imagine it's designed for 2.
I can't remember
designed,
with it.
yeah.
It's a caboose.
Cantina in Tempe, they had, I believe, 6 of them, and one of them, this is one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's been in Arizona and historically been around here for quite a while.
And BNSF allowed it on the tracks to get
And
it
they-
over here, right?
No, we trucked everything.
Oh, trucked it over.
And then the Pullman, she actually ran here as a camera car.
Ah,
One of the original, one of only maybe 1 or 2, I don't even know. But the front is notched where the camera used to be.
Right.
And she ran from Williams to Grand Canyon, creating one of the first simulators for...
And that's the largest one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she ran many miles here in Arizona, too.
Yeah, and she still has a lot of
We
life in
kind
her.
of feel like we're bringing them home.
Well, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you both so very much for letting me hang out with you on your day off
Thank
and,
you.
and be a
Thank you
part of
for
this and the
making us a part of
insight
it.
and I get to hang out for a few more minutes. So again, I wanted to give a special thanks to the Patts of Desert Diamond Distillery for hosting the Arizona podcast with their awesome hospitality. I do have to give a shout out to old Jim Hinckley because, well, that's what we do. He's a good guy, and he and I have been talking about this place for quite a while. So to be here and to hear the stories personally, and a big shout out to my beautiful bride Mary for always being my Wendy to my Peter Pan. It does mean a lot to me. Most importantly, a big thank you to you, the listener, for taking the time to download and to listen to our podcast. That is kind of the way that we like to do things. And please do us a favor, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and hey, subscribe to our new YouTube channel. You'll find us at Arizona Podcast. It is the Arizona Podcast, a proud member of the On the Interstate Radio Network.
Program terminated. Thank you for listening to the Arizona Podcast. For more information on our podcasts, the people, places, events, or the sponsors heard, visit ArizonaPodcast.com. Available for download everywhere.